Jason Duncan is one of the most amazing humans in the world. You have to listen to this podcast. Not me, but the whole podcast series. Episode 1,000, 4,000, 4,000,000, whatever it is by now. Jason Duncan is the man. You got to listen to what he's saying. Make sure you listen to, pay attention. He's good people.
Welcome to the root of all success with the real Jason Duncan, a podcast that explores how the world's most powerful entrepreneurs unlocked success and how their stories can help you do the same. A successful educator turned entrepreneur, Jason has built multi-million-dollar businesses that have been featured in Inc. magazine and Entrepreneur magazine. His life's mission now is helping entrepreneurs live what he calls #the exit lifestyle. Introducing TEDx speaker, mastermind leader, author, entrepreneur, cigar aficionado, motorcycle enthusiast, and host of The Root of All Success, the real Jason Duncan. The real Jason Duncan.
Welcome back to another edition of the show. I am the real Jason Duncan. You can call me JD. I'm excited to have Ramon Ray as my guest on the show today. This is going to be the most accessible and positive guy that you've ever heard, man. This guy is just a ball of energy and smiles. And the conversation that we had before I started recording and the conversation I had after we stopped recording was as good or better than what you're going to hear on the show. So we just had a phenomenal opportunity to dig deep into his philosophy of what's going on in his world. He is unapologetically positive and passionate about making the world a better place. He is the publisher of BWCdaily.com, which is Breakfast with Champions. We're going to talk about his Clubhouse channel and how they have 8 hours of live programming on Clubhouse every day through BWC. And I join it live on the show today. So you'll be given the opportunity to pull your cell phone out and join that Clubhouse channel live today. He's also the founder of zoneofgenius.com, which helps small business owners live life fulfilled. He's an in-demand public speaker. He's been on stage with people like Simon Sinek, Seth Godin, Gary Vaynerchuk. He's interviewed six of the sharks from Shark Tank. He talks about interviewing them. And he's also interviewed President Barack Obama. This guy is a guy you want to follow, you want to know. Please help me welcome Ramon Ray to the show. Hey, Ramon, welcome to the show, my man.
Jason, thanks for having me. It's always a great day when I can hang out with the JD man himself. Thanks for having me.
Well, I love meeting people like you, and I'm going to tell this story as we get started because I'm not going to do this intro. I always record the intros at the end, but I'm going to tell right now how we met because I think people need to know this. I think this is a cool encouragement for the people that follow you and the people that follow me to understand how people are accessible in this world. We live in a world that is accessible. So my friend and I, Justin Mosley, we're going through this book. This book here, Think and Grow Rich workbook. I'm sure you're familiar with this. And one of the things and the activities in that workbook, it said, what is one area of technical expertise that you want to get better at in the new year, in 2023? So one of the things I wanted to get better at is understanding purpose, which is something you know a little bit about. And it said, start looking people up. And I'm sitting at my kitchen table early one morning, a couple of months ago, drinking coffee, going through the workbook, and I'm Googling purpose. How do you know your purpose? How do you find your purpose? And lo and behold, I come across zoneofgenius.com. And there's this guy I thought was Raymond Ray, but as it turns out, it's Ramon Ray. And I reached out to you and I said, hey, dude, I want to know about what you do. We got on a call and now here you are on the show. So thank you for being accessible to me. I appreciate this.
And I love it. I thought you were going to go with SEO and content, which is part of it, but I love it. Accessibility, Jason. And how many people probably don't check their DMs, don't check their messages, et cetera, don't reply back. They miss opportunities to hang out with Jason Duncan. So you're welcome. And I'm glad to be here.
Well, you are definitely one of the most positive guys that I've encountered in a while. You're always smiling, always happy. Every time I see you on Instagram, LinkedIn, you're always smiling. You're always positive. You're always doing a lot of stuff. Where do you think that came from?
Maybe 2.5 things. We'll think of it as I say something that comes out of my mouth. One of it is my faith. I happen to be a person of deep, deep faith. So I credit, what's inside me happens to come out. I think that's one. Two, I'm very grateful, Jason. I was talking to somebody, we were talking on another platform about houses and investments and things we're looking forward to do. And I stopped and said, you know what? Me and my family right now live in a townhouse community. And I remember when I was living in Brooklyn, New York, and whoever's hearing this doesn't demean who you are in the state right now. I'm talking about my journey, Jason. But I remember being the trash compactor in front of the apartment door, roaches coming in and out of the, whatever. So my point is, I'm just grateful. I'm like, you know what? I got a car and it's not leaking. I had a Ford Taurus, or no, the hatchback. What is that? A hatchback Ford something?
Escort. There was an Escort back in the day.
Something like that. Somebody gave it to me, had rust in it. So I think that's part of it. Third, maybe the half. Don't take myself too seriously, Jason. And I love people. So those are probably a few reasons, all that combined, why I just love life.
So you are definitely a positive and passionate guy. So when did you get your start as an entrepreneur? Was it as a child, or were you doing some sort of side hustles as a kid, or was it more later in life as an adult?
Sure. I think it took 2 or 3 phases. The Ramon today is probably not the Ramon of 10 years ago, give or take. You have spurts and you learn things and growth, at least my journey. So that's one. But the start, I recall 2 things happening to me. I worked full time at the United Nations. And while there, Jason, I think God puts maybe it all in us, this desire to create and risk and lose and start zero. I just love that. So I think that's part of it. But at the United Nations, a friend of mine said, Ramon, I have a speaking gig. I can't go to it. Can you attend it? And of course, I had done some speaking at local chambers. And I think there's where I realized, wow, people pay you to speak on stage. So that was one. And then the second related to that, around that time, a couple of years ago, Black Enterprise and Inc. magazine, around the same time, can you write for us? We'll give you $1 per word. I'm like, that sucks, $1 per word. Then they're like, can you write 3,000 words? I told my wife, whoa, wait a minute. This is money. So if that's helpful, somebody asking me to speak for them and just being found, being accessible, maybe. That's kind of the word I want to use.
Well,
that's how I started.
So what were you doing at the UN?
Sure. I was an administrative officer. Somebody in my church had said, Ramon, it started out as a secretary. They called it admin clerk. So this was right out of college when I was 19-ish, give or take, something like that, 19, 20, somewhere around that time. I just applied. Back in the day, whenever you type on a manual typewriter, no chat GPT, and put the little white tape in the typewriter to erase the thing you did. So I started there. But while there, Jason, is where I was still dabbling in side hustles. That's still where I was like, ooh, let me try this. Let me try this. The travel agent next door to our office said, Ramon, have you heard of Microsoft Access? I'm like, yeah. He's like, could you help me with it? So I got Q, I think, that big thick book back in the day, like this thick, where you just learn it. I got that, opened it. He paid me to learn Q and help him. That's how I started.
So you come out of college, 19, or you're in college, 19-ish, and you are working at the UN as a secretary, as an admin clerk. And somebody says, hey, I'm speaking at this chamber event. Can you fill in? So do you actually went to fill in for this person last minute?
That is correct. And of course, that's the journey, not just at 19, probably closer to when I was a bit older, but that's the trajectory. So started entrepreneurial, my first kind of gig, repairing computers and all that. That's one data point. And then as I can tell the detail, but as I got more into it and speaking and being in the business community, that's where then you meet people, you network. So a couple of years later, friends like Ramon, can you speak? So that was another skill that I realized. Computers and technology, that kind of when I was younger. And then as I matured and grew, yes, a friend said, Ramon, can you fill in for me and speak? I can't go. I spoke and I rocked it. And they asked me to come back again and again. So that started the speaking side of Ramon Ray, motivational speaking, hosting big events. Back then I'd do it for a slice of pizza. Today, I'm paid good money to do it. So that's how I started, though.
How long ago was it when that guy asked you to fill in? How many years are we talking?
Sure. And I'll credit her. Her name is, by the way, Jennifer Shaheen, and her company is called Technology Therapist. She's probably around today. If anybody listening, look up Jennifer Shaheen, Technology Therapist. And I bet Google has us in magazines together. The point being is that my son, Jason, right now is 28 years old. And I remember that time period because he was playing with small matchbox cars under the chair, I believe that day when I was speaking. And so that's how I remember. So I've been doing this for about 24 years. Yeah, because he was 28. He was small enough to be a little guy on his hands and knees, playing around in a chair. And I gave one of my first, this was to score, by the way, unpaid. It was to score, 26 Federal Plaza, the government free, So I did that. And then the rest, though, I think that's when I learned I have a talent, learned I have an art, learned that people value you. And then I slowly began to monetize it, and the word got around and things of that nature.
What was your talk about?
It had to be something with technology. Oh, probably how to build websites. I've been doing website talks. I stopped doing them now in, the last 10 years because of Wix and whoever else. But I think, had 10 ways to build a first-class website. I believe some of that content's still out there. You can see Ramon talking about it. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So 24 years ago, so
Yeah.
we're late 90s.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking at a chamber event about how to build websites. You know what's funny about that, Ramon, is that in 1990, I think it was late 95, early 96, I started a website design company. You believe that or not? I mean, listen, I went to this conference. This is one of those deals. You go to a conference about how to make money, and they're like, I could teach you how to design websites. And we signed up. We become website designers. I remember trying to go to BNI meetings, trying to explain to all these people what a website was. Nobody knew what it was. So if I'd have
We
stayed
were
in
hot
that,
stuff, Jason. And one thing I'll say, I'll interview Jason for 10 seconds if I may, but I bet you remember Microsoft Front Page and Dreamweaver. I recall those were the two hot tools. Front Page, you'd save it, FTP it up several times a day. That was my first blog. So those days, and one other thing I'll add, Joe Connolly, WCBS Radio. I have a cassette tape, and I believe it's where I'm telling him about the World Wide Web. In that time period or before, I think I still have the cassette tape in a drawer somewhere. Ramon Ray, Family Computer Consulting Services, is telling me about the World Wide Web.
Wow. Isn't it weird? Like we've, you and I are probably about the same age. I turned 48 this week, early March. So we're about the same age. And we went through the beginning of the World Wide Web. I remember having people over at my house when AOL sent those discs out, and we first put it in that time at 14.4 kbps, whatever that is, KBS. I don't know what the thing is, but it was sounded like, you dial up. Yeah. And then I'd be chatting with somebody in Germany, and everybody's like, oh, that is amazing. And now here we are. We got ChatGPT. That's absolutely blowing my mind. I'd be interested to hear what your thoughts are as a writer on ChatGPT, because the way I see it is that we're now at another dawn of an amazing technology. As much as the internet was in the mid to late 90s, I think ChatGPT is that new dawn. What do you think about it?
I think so, yes, and here's why. But I'd like to know, so here's the thing. It depends on where one falls, you or I or those listening, as they're thinking about it. I don't believe there's anything new that most of us are saying. I believe it's how we're saying it and our experiences that set the difference, based on what I can tell. Jason, I speak on how to do great video, but it's Ramon's style of fun, my theatrics in it. But Jason, come on. You or 100 guys we could randomly pick who are, been in the technical world, could talk about how to do video. So I don't kid myself. It's anybody could do it. So hence, ChatGPT, 5 ways to wake up healthier. Come on, Jason. Any of us could touch on that, but I add my little sauce. So yes, the point being, I think ChatGPT, these machine-powered tools, game changer. And people who can ask the right question, they will win.
Yeah, I use ChatGPT all day, every day. It is my go-to. Anything that I do, I take it in there. As a matter of fact, I've got webinar series that I host called the Entrepreneur Master Series. I do this twice a month, and I bring in a guest expert, and we do a deep dive in his or her topic. And I always get them to come up with titles. I say I want it to be a salacious, like clickbaity almost type title, so that people will want to look at it. And then I also want them to write a 1-paragraph blurb about what we're going to talk about. But here's what I've started to do. I say, send me your ideas. They send me 2 or 3 ideas. I pop them in ChatGPT and said, give me the best one. And they will put one together, and it's just amazing. Then I'll put their blurb in and say, rewrite this to be more catchy and punchy, and then it'll rewrite it. And it's learning to speak as I speak, which is even freakier. But I ask it everything. I don't go to just the internet. I use DuckDuckGo. I'm not much of a Google search guy, but I use DuckDuckGo. But I use ChatGPT for everything. So, are you not threatened by this as a writer? Or, I mean, what as a writer, what do you think about it?
Well, as a writer, I'm threatened. But again, so for me, I hire writers and building niche blogs, so a little different. But yes, if I was as a writer, yes, it's a threat. No question about it. As a writer, ChatGPT is a threat. Because formally, as we talked, offline, building Zone of Genius, building smartest.com, building smallbiztechnology.com, things I've sold, before you hire a writer, $10, $25 an article, whatever the rate would be for somebody in the Philippines or India. And again, those listening, only because their cost of living is lower. Great people. Cost of living is different. So you can hire them cheaper. So that's my world. Charging a brand $1,000 for the article, 2,000, whatever it may be, but I can get it done for 50 to 100. So point being, yes, for the writer who's doing that, your world's jacked up. Now you have to learn to be smarter. And here's where I think the value add is. Can you help me with SEO? Can you use a tool like SEMrush or other tools like this and do it? Can you edit my podcast, please, too? That's where you can start to do things. Okay, before you were just writer, now you're going to have to learn more tools, and then I can pay you still or pay you more to help maximize that, if that kind of makes sense.
Yeah, I think what I'm seeing right now is a lot of fear porn on which what we experienced during COVID, but now we're experiencing on Chat GPT. We're experiencing a lot of these guys, these self-appointed gurus on Instagram and TikTok are going out there and saying, Chat GPT, the world's dying. It's terrible. We got to be ready. It's a threat. No, I think those are the same people that said who made horse and buggies in the turn of the, in the early 1900s, the world's going to die. We're all going to die. These cars are going to be doing 15 miles an hour down the street. That's dangerous. Okay. Well, the same people that were saying who printed the yellow pages and did ads in the yellow pages, the world's dying when the internet came out. I think this is another huge pivot point in our world that we happen to pay attention or getting to pay attention to and live through. And I appreciate your perspective on it as a writer. And I see what you mean, but the pivot, we've all got to make those pivots. You made a pivot working at the UN to go and to speak, and it's changed your whole life, I would say, right?
It has, for sure. And I think, Jason, to go back to the writers or anybody else who's listening, you can take this wherever it is. I'd love to know what you think, is that this is where you just have to learn new skills. So before, I'm just a writer, blind zone, like the horse and buggy. I'm just a guy who fixes horses' hoofs, shoes, whatever they do, and does their mane and all that stuff. But now the car's coming out. It takes a bit of forward thinking, a bit of effort. It's going to be a bit of pain, a bit of learning skill. Let me now learn how to fix the cars, because Kodak didn't see it. Blockbuster didn't see it. And again, who am I? These are smart people, but they resisted it. So I think, to your point, when these new technologies come out, it's thinking, how can I add value? And in my own journey, even I was realizing it as one who builds niche publications, thinking, what's my real value? And I had to remember, it's not the writing. It's the Ramon Ray sauce. It's the reach, whatever it may be. So I've had to even, I'm constantly reinventing and asking myself, what am I really selling? What's the real value add?
Yeah. So I think there's probably a tie-in to this word accessibility, which I used and then you used again a few minutes ago, that you were accessible. The world is accessible. Well, now I think writing and maybe not the creative stuff that you and I would do as humans where we're thinking through it, but creative ideas and writing and producing code is now accessible to everybody. Anybody who's got access to the computer can get in and type in the question to Chat GPT and it can answer. But I think this also gives everybody the opportunity to do what you just said, which is these writers, these content writers, copywriters, they need to now shift, make themselves accessible to some other thing. Maybe it's SEO, maybe it's Kajabi. Like I moved all my website from WordPress to Kajabi, and finding a Kajabi expert is not as easy as you might think. So I think there's a lot of opportunities there. Hey, let's shift the conversation just a little bit. Let's talk about what you're doing with bwcdaily.com. So you're the publisher of this website. Sure. Tell everybody what BWC Daily is, and then we'll back up from there about how you started it and why you started it and all that kind of stuff.
Sure. Yeah. Short of the story is, of course, so in full context, so I start niche publications. Generally speaking, they're leaning towards the small business side. So BWC Daily was founded by a gentleman by the name of Glenn Lundy, a guy who's had a lot of issues and a broken man who I want to introduce you to, Jason. You guys would like each other, I think. Who's healed and come through a large journey of success himself into car dealerships and more. So BWC Daily, we have 70 hosts, experts, and I'll just show one book as an example. As an example, Alexandra Carter. This is not my book at all. I'm just sharing, I love amplifying other people. She's one of the top experts in Columbia Law School. They call her the top female expert. She's a top expert about law. Her book, Ask for More. Not my book at all, nothing to do with it. But the point being, we have experts like that. TED Talks, written 20 books, all kinds of people we have live programming 8 hours a day starting at 5 a.m. And so it's all about motivation, education, inspiration with a dose of positivity. There's no politics. And usually there's people who are relatively healthy, on the edge, like to do some fun things in life. And we're like-hearted. So that's what BWC Daily is. And when you have 70 hosts providing 8 hours of content, online and on audio, you're building a media company. And so, as you know, that's kind of my niche, and that's what we're growing, building a brand new media brand to impact the lives of people and basically help them wake up and feel better about their lives.
So BWC stands for Breakfast with Champions, right?
That's right. Breakfast
And
Champions.
so it started by Glenn Lundy. When did you acquire it?
Yeah, he gave that to me to build about 6 months ago, give or take, late last fall.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Recently.
Yeah. So I've been a part of it for some time, but he recently called me and said, Ramon, you can grow this. And I know you're about numbers and talking about, business. You can monetize this and grow it better than I can. So he's still part of it. But he said, Ramon, do your genius, do what you do and build a niche publication. That's what we're doing.
So is it membership based? Is it ad based? What's your revenue model
Sure.
through that?
Yeah. Revenue model is about 4 or 5 streams. 1, we have live events. So that's 1. 2, of course, we have the banner ads on a website, but that's not much yet until you get quite a bit of traffic.
Right.
Number 3, we have a paid membership community where people pay about $49 a month in that. So that's the 3 main revenues right now. Eventually, we'll get into clothing and gear, things like this. But our first goal, my metric is build the email list, build the community. Just again, not about me per se, but helping others who are in the online space know what are the key drivers for the business. Web traffic and email. As you build that up and you're providing great value to the community, they'll buy what you're selling.
So you said that there's 7-8 hours of content every day, live content.
That's right.
Tell me what that looks like. Is it you log on and you're watching people speak? You're listening?
Yeah.
What does that look like?
Absolutely. So Clubhouse app audio. Some of us do stream on video, but you wake up 5 a.m. every morning. There's a guy named T.M. Hyman. Hey, everybody, this is T.M. Hyman. I'm your leadership expert. Good morning. Good morning. Get out of bed. How you doing? Today, we're going to talk about 4 ways that you can be a better leader to your very small business. Start with leading yourself. 30 minutes. He's done. Next up, hey, everybody, my name is Dr. Tanji Brewer. I'm your health coach. TM, thanks so much for your segment. In real time now, my name is Dr. Tanji. Listen, gut health is so important. Don't you want to be more healthy for your kids? Dr. Tanji may go on for 60 minutes. Then we have Haley Hobson, maybe a name you know, but you may know John Lee Dumas. She'll be having him come on the show soon. So if that's helpful, person after person after person for about 8 hours. Sometimes it's 7, but about 8 hours starting at 5 a.m., show after show after show, from real estate to finance to health to divorce to you name it, you blog even more.
So you're using the Clubhouse platform to distribute it, but it's you're actually doing it through bwcdaily.com.
Correct. The archived version, going back to my expertise, then the blogging of it, we take that content and we're navigating through building it to take the verbal content and put that on podcast and then put that on blog.
So can anybody get into your Clubhouse channel or is it limited to, you got to sign up through BWC Daily? How does that work?
Open to all. Anybody who has the Clubhouse app can find it. Just join us live 5 a.m. Clubhouse app. You'll see Breakfast with Champions. In fact, it's live going on right now as we're speaking. and then we put it online. And that's the part that I'm doing to grow that. YouTube, we're not strong in it yet. We could do better in other areas, but the audio is where we start and then grow the channel.
All right, so I'm looking here. I see Ramon Ray. I'm hitting follow on Clubhouse right now. He's at Ramon Ray. I'm on my phone looking at this. So is it BWC Daily? Is that what it is?
Breakfast with Champions.
So you got to spell out breakfast. I'm going to do this right now. If you're watching this on YouTube or listening, pull all your phone out. Not if you're driving, but do this. So Breakfast with Champions. This sounds like, I think, BW Champions. No. Champions.
Breakfast with Champions. Mm-hmm.
All right. So now I see BW Champions. Is that it? Nope. There it is. I see it. Breakfast with Champions Millionaire Breakfast Club.
That's right.
Boom. All right. This room is recorded. Hit accept. And I'm a member. So there we are. I'm officially in Breakfast with Champions. So that's good. Well, so now,
maybe I did, Jason. Welcome. I'll have to send you a gold sticker or a cigar or something.
Well, Clubhouse is a weird thing. Like I'm an Android guy. I've been on Google Pixels ever since they came out. I think they're the best phones ever made. But I know Clubhouse originally came out on iOS only, and everybody kept saying, "Jason, you got to get on Clubhouse. You got to get Clubhouse." And I did. Then when it came on Android, I got on there, and I'd go into some rooms every once in a while, just kind of lurk, and I'd see what's happening in there. But I've not fully understood how to maximize that. So if somebody's out there like me, give us a 2 or 3 minute, like, here's how you use Clubhouse to make your life better.
Sure. Number one, just sign up and complete your profile. That's really important. Complete your profile, something interesting, kind of as you mentioned, clickbaitish in a good way, who you are, why Shakir. That's one. Number two, join other active groups that are in simpatico, like-heartedness with you. Doesn't have to be because you're in real estate, it's real estate, but people who have that vibe with you. If you like a ton of cursing and all that, join those rooms. If you like whatever you like, but join rooms that are in simpatico with who you are. That's number two. And number three, I would say, then start to have your voice heard. Hey, everybody, this is Jason. Can I jump in? I heard somebody talk about building, $1 million companies. I've done it a few times. One thing you said was hiring. Here's my experience, and shut up. Over and over. Add value. That's number three. I would start there. And then
Okay.
people begin to know you. Oh, there's Jason again. Jason, come up to the stage. Jason, can you lead a segment? Hey, Jason, let's meet for lunch because I'm flying in. Over time, the relationships build and you'll be off to the races like any other platform.
Interesting.
Let's take a quick break to thank our amazing sponsors for making this podcast possible.
As an entrepreneur, I know that you have to deal with sales on a regular basis. I mean, every entrepreneur does. And if you aren't paying attention to sales as an entrepreneur, you're not going to be an entrepreneur for very long. But I've got a sponsor of this show called Dub that helps you bring the personal back to sales. If you want to figure out how to improve content creation and improve client trust, improve your sales process, decrease the sales cycle, because we all know time kills deals. If you want to increase client bookings and increase conversions, you need to take a look at Dub. There's a special offer for Dub for listeners to The Root of All Success at therealjasonduncan.com/Dub. And that's DUBB. I've been using this for years. I'm a huge fan, and I'm so honored that they're our primary sponsor of the podcast. But they have helped over 60,000 businesses around the world communicate better, to make sales easier, to make sales more personal. And it's built Dub for growing teams. I mean, you can set up video emails, you can set up custom onboarding, you can do admin reporting. You need around video and sales and automation. Dub is there. You can try Dub now. Your conversions to sales are waiting. All you got to do is go to therealjasonduncan.com/Dub. And there you're going to get 2 weeks for free to try Dub. Plus, you're going to get 50% off your first 2 months of Dub. You can't beat that. So go check it out. Go to therealjasonduncan.com/Dub. 40 years ago, you weren't in business unless you had your business in the Yellow Pages. You remember those things? And 30 years ago, you weren't in business unless you had a door-to-door salesman. 20 years ago, you weren't in business unless you had a website. And today, you're not in business unless you're doing social media content. Am I right? Social media content. Social media content in the form of like micro content, which is 30 to 60 second spots on Instagram Reels or TikTok or YouTube Shorts. That's the way business is done. As a matter of fact, that may be how you found out about this podcast or me as a business coach. This medium that we're using today to communicate what we do is vitally important. And just recording yourself isn't enough. You got to do it right. And my friends over at Story do it right. And one of the problems with doing it wrong is that you sit around thinking, well, what the heck am I going to record? What am I going to say? How am I going to say it? Like, I don't know what to talk about. Well, Story takes all of that away from you. Stop wasting time trying to come up with content, because Story will send you a video prompt on what to record. You can pick the categories you want to record in, whether it's real estate, entrepreneurship, finance, relationship, leadership, life insurance. It could be anything. Don't waste time on that. And by the way, if you're not confident in talking on video, or if the video editing portion takes up way too much of your time, Story will edit the videos to perform well on social media. They add the subtitles, the pop-ups, the zoom cuts. They remove all the filler words like and. They remove the awkward pauses. And then they take that video and post it for you. They write the captions, they add the relevant hashtags, and they post it on the platforms that you care about the most. It's exactly what you need to be in business today and to be successful at it. So if you want to learn how to do social media the way the influencers do, you need to go to therealjasonduncan.com/story. And that's story with 2 Y's. Why? Because they're awesome. Go to therealjasonduncan.com/story. That's STORYY for 10% off your first 3 months to try Story out. You're going to thank me later.
Thanks for listening to our sponsors. Now, back to the show.
All right, well, let's shift to Zone of Genius because this is why I originally reached out to you. So you and I have a mutual friend that talks and teaches and coaches about Zone of Genius. So when I saw the name Zone of Genius, I thought, hey, that looks familiar. And it wasn't our mutual friend. It was you. And I thought, okay, what is this? Tell us a little bit about Zone of Genius.
Sure. A friend of mine was playing bass guitar in his church. His name is Joel. I was watching him play bass guitar, and the word came into my mind, and possibly because subliminally, hearing it on other platforms is a common word people use. I said, this dude's in the zone of genius. And the reason I said it, Jason, is because he's a person that's not done so well academically in school. He's several years younger, so he sees me as a mentor in some way.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is his gift. He's not going to be the best guy in math. He's going to suck in science. But this dude on the bass guitar, leading worship, choir, and hearing the piano was out of tune, I'm like, woo, he's in his zone of genius. So that's when I bought the domain. And I said, listen, can I build a site that helps business owners live life fulfilled? So I full transparency, Jason, I was playing, should it be for all, like zone of genius, personal development? But I said, no, I know small business. Let me build something that helps small business owners live a fulfilled life. And kind of, Jason, you and I are simpatico. I believe part of what you're doing is you don't have to slave and work hard and, all this stuff. We need to work hard, but the exit or the fulfillment should be to enjoy life. So that's what we're about, zoneofgenius.com. How can business owners, not just about the speeds and feeds, CRM and all that, which is important, but really go spend time with your kids. Go take your wife on a date. Go be a better dude, a better gal. Take your pick.
I appreciate that a lot. I spent some time. I spent a lot of time over the last several months, 6 months actually, working on this concept of how to teach other people to find their purpose. Because I happen to be living in the center of mine, and only 2% of the world ever figures it out and lives in the middle of it. And I'm blessed to be one of those 2% of people. I was speaking at an event in California a couple of weeks ago, and the room was about 80. There was about 80 people in the room, and I was telling that stat, and I said, what's 2% of 80? I can't, like math's not my thing. And somebody said, well, like 1 point something. And I went, so like less than 2. So I'm the guy. Like I'm the guy in the room that's figured out my purpose. So let me help you figure out your purpose. And so you were instrumental in helping me when I made that call to you, to kind of driving me a little bit further. So now I've got a course called 40 Days to Find Your True Purpose, and it's based on Ikigai and like Zone of Genius, this concept. So thank you for being
live in front of everybody. We have to do another working together, not only the book that's coming out, Jason, but I want to let's promote this across the Zone of Genius platform. So I'll be purposeful, take your links and all that and share it out as well.
Well, I'll make a note of that. Thank you. You're very kind.
I love how you write notes, and you're very purposeful, man. I need to do that better. I just I'll remember it. I don't.
Well, if I don't write it down, I don't remember. I tell my assistant, she's my external hard drive. So if we're in a meeting and something happens, I'll be like, hey, write that down. And I remember you're my external hard drive, because as soon as I turn away from you, I will not remember this.
It's done.
So you gotta,
Jason keeps his head like this. Are we good? Are we good? And then
I'm back, and I don't remember anything. I had my new intern at a lunch with me yesterday, and one of the guy I was having the business meeting with, my intern was just observing, and he said something. I went, "Ooh, that's a good idea." And I turned to Justin and said, "Hey, Justin, write that down, and listen, you got to remember to remind me."
I love it, but it's so true. And isn't that part of habits, Jason? People complain about this or that, but listen, I can learn from you. Hopefully, you can learn something from me. But I think it's about habits. What you do in the morning, what you do, and I think that habit of writing down, it's helpful for sure.
I want to say something again to thank you for what you did for me, and then I want to get back into your story. I want to talk about how you met and interviewed the 5 sharks from Shark Tank. But when you and I first had that phone call, and we talked about Zone of Genius, because I was curious about what that meant, and you told the story that you just told again about you just found the domain and decided to build something around that to provide value. Mm-hmm. And that when you and I spoke, somehow we started talking about that one viral clip that I had that went out like 30 million views on marriage and divorce. Mm-hmm. And you said, hey, have you ever done anything around that? Have you tried to kind of figure, not necessarily, I think you might've said monetize, but it wasn't about just capitalistic idea of monetization, but like, have you bought a domain? Have you done that? And at the time I said, no, I hadn't. But as soon as I got off that phone with you, what you don't know, as I went and bought don'tsaydivorce.com, and I've got a site. It's very minimal. There's not much there. I'm working on reaching out to marriage therapists, counselors, people that work with people to do divorce prevention and then divorce care, if in fact it does happen. And I'm working out affiliate opportunities to put them on my site, because my TED Talk in April is going to be Don't Say Divorce. I'm going to talk about the clip. I'm going to talk about the backstory, why it happened. So you, Ramon, gave me that idea. So thank you for helping me with that. Who knows what it's going to turn into, but I appreciate you helping me with that.
You made my day. Well, I know it's going to turn into, if we wish, is that you and I, that's another thing you and I can work on, because as you know, I have some things that I do also in that field. So it's not my full-time thing. It's not my IP, but we're going to talk. We'll be helping save marriages.
Good. Everybody needs to know Ramon Ray. RamonRay.com. You got to go check this guy out. So Ramon, how did you get a chance to sit down and interview the Sharks?
Yes. So here's how if I can remember, I'll say it succinctly, all five. So Mark Cuban, I was at South by Southwest, and that was through a brand relationship. I had a few minutes to say, hey, Mark Cuban, and blah, blah, blah. So that's Mark Cuban. Damon John, through a CRM company, I'm happy to mention them, but famous CRM company that was marketing automation, been with him, and other opportunities that have shared the stage with him. He's a pretty popular, probably one of the most asked to speak Sharks, or the guy who says yes most, put it that way. So him and I have been in circles together. Robert Herjavec and I, through another company, a branding company, they had hired him as their spokesperson a few times, and so he came to Midtown Manhattan on 2 or 3 occasions, and I had about 20 minutes on each occasion to sit and talk with him and chat with him, and videos out there with me and him. So that's Robert. Laura Grenier, similar thing. One of my brand sponsors said, Ramon, could you interview Laura Grenier? So we had about an hour together, and she's just like she is on Shark Tank, very humane, very aw. And then Mr. Wonderful, South by Southwest as well. And I may be missing one, am I? Barbara Corcoran. She was a riot. When we first walked in the room, oh my God, Ramon, my first boyfriend, his name was Ramon. Could that be you? And I'm like, okay, no. But it was fun.
Barbara does seem like she'd be fun to hang out with.
She is.
You know, I heard Robert Herjavec speak on at the 10X Growth Con just recently. I was a judge for their speaking competition, and before the speaking competition, Robert Herjavec was up talking.
I was there live.
Were you really?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, I was on Zoom. I was watching by Zoom. I was doing my judging. It was in the middle of a recording day on a Wednesday, and I didn't have time to do as much as I'd like. But Robert was pretty cool.
I was in my platinum seats. I just have to get that out there. I have to get it out of my heart. I was in my platinum seat.
There you go. I heard Damon John speak in Nashville back in 2019 at an event with Tony Robbins and Gary Vaynerchuk and Dean Graziosi, and Damon's speech was awesome. He had it choreographed to music. I don't know if you've ever seen him do that one. That was phenomenal. It was so good because he would talk, and at the right moment, a hip hop song or a song would come on, and it would illustrate what he was saying. And I thought, dude, the choreographing to get that, to pull that off, it was pretty cool.
You know, that you're saying it, I heard him speak at an Inc. Not the Inc. 5000, but like the smaller sub-event, Inc. something event. And funny enough, yes, I was so impressed. I remember that. I grew up in Hollis, Queens, New York. But bang, I'm like, okay.
Yeah, he did a phenomenal job. So what? So you also have shared the stage with a lot of big guys, big people. Simon Sinek, Seth Godin, Gary Vee. Is that just a nature of you just being invited to speak at these events that these guys happen to be there? And did you get to sit down and have a conversation or meet these guys?
Sure. I'll tell you a story about what happened with Gary Vee, because something recently. Gary Vee, as you may know, hosts VCon. That's coming up at some point, and Ramon Ray has been asked to be a host at VCon, which I'm like,
good for you, man. Good for you. Congrats.
Thank you. When I heard about it, they said, yeah, Ramon, we asked Gary about you. And he said, oh yeah, I like that guy. I know Ramon. Have him. So that's the end of the story. But to your point, yes, some of them have been me being a speaker and speaking on stages and hired at big events and, Las Vegas or wherever. Those type of people are getting the bigger fees. If they're being paid $100,000, Ramon's being paid $20,000, $25,000, $15,000, whatever it may be. But I think, yes, part of those doing the work, Jason, I know you know this, but to the audience listening, it's doing the work. It's putting yourself in the right opportunity. And many of you listening today know this. If you put your rod in the pond, I don't fish, but with enough fish and keep it there long enough and do your best to jiggle imperfectly as you can, fish will bite. and you'll get better and better at it. So in short, Jason, that's been my journey, doing the work, being out there. And yeah, I have a certain style. I like people. I'm always the guy, if I'm sitting in business class, first class, or wherever it is on a plane. Hi, my name is Ramon. Where are you headed? Not bugging them, but I just have a habit of just smiling and saying hi. Jason, you wouldn't believe the percentage of people that engage in conversation.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Well, congrats on the VCon thing. One of my coaching clients is part of a mastermind, is part of Gary V's kind of inner circle on his NFTs. And so my client, his name is Chris, he's been trying to get me on stage at VCon. So he got me in touch with, Gary, the Vayner speakers or whatever it is. And I had the meeting with them, and he said, hey, what do you know about NFTs? I was like, nothing. He goes, well, then what would you talk about? I said, well, the way I heard it from the people who attended, they need people to talk about business. So if you want somebody to come in and do the business side, I'd be happy to do that. So I don't know if they'll invite me, but now I know one of the hosts, maybe the host can grease it up for me.
Something else to write down. Look at your assistant. I need to see your head turn, Jason. Write that down. I will do an affirmation, not that you need it, but when you get somebody else says something
always,
in addition, it helps. I will do that as soon as we wrap up here. I'd love to. Yes.
So thank you. So tell me about interviewing President Obama. That's a pretty big thing too. So tell us about that.
I think, Jason, for me, what was most interesting about that is the journey to get there. So I hope it's not a deflating thing. It was cool to speak to the president. I'll touch on that. But for me, it was being interviewed maybe 3 or 4 times by Google. Google Hangout team was the one who had that deal with the White House, whatever they were doing, probably trying to promote Google Hangout at the time. This was X years ago. So that was fun. That was just the journey, the rush. I'm a competitive guy. So if me and Jason have to clean up vomit, I'm going to race Jason and clean up as much vomit more than Jason that I can.
I will let you win. I will let you win that contest.
Thank you, Jason. But the point being, it was just fun to be interviewed several times. What would you ask him? Blah, 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 blah. Okay, we'll call you back next week or, a few days. Ramon, tell me again who you are. I know you told the other producer, but tell us again who you are. Second round. Third round. Ramon, let's just look at so what kind of computer do you have? Lighting, whatever. We'll get back to you. So that round, and my understanding is 300,000 people applied. And so for me to say I was one of 5, like you did your 2% thing, one of 5 people to be interviewed, that to me was what's cool. You could hear it in my voice. But yes, interviewing the president when that day came, he's the president, regardless of your politics. Hey, Ramon. And me asking a question, of course, about small business. It was pretty fun. I was.
Did you do that? Did you do it virtually like this? Is that what you did?
Virtually,
okay.
Yeah. I have been to the White House. I've testified to Congress, but with him in that season, it was virtually online. I pulled my little leather couch together, stacked it up with books and, the studio beforehand. It wasn't like today, all that fancy lighting. This was many years ago, but set it up and are you all ready? The president's coming. 5, 4, 3. Hi, y'all. My name is.
Wow.
we were live.
So is that interview still available on YouTube?
Yeah, it's on YouTube. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. All right. So go look up Ramon Ray and President Barack Obama and see this guy interviewing a sitting president of the United States. There's not very many people that can say that. That's, but you know what? I think it goes back again to your accessibility. You're just making yourself accessible to people. You're talking to people on airplanes. You're going to these events. You're getting in front of people. And I think that's one of the keys to success. Wouldn't you agree that we've got to put ourselves in the right place at the right time? We don't know that's the right place. We don't know it's the right time until later. But if we stay in our mom's basement playing video games all the time, we're never going to get that right place, right time. Being accessible is one of the keys to success. So would you agree with that? And what would you add to that?
100%, Jason. I think that from what I've done building several online businesses, my first business was a technology company. Second one was an event business. The last 3 or so were online. But the point being, it's part of that accessibility because I'm not the greatest at math. Maybe I need to know systems and processes better. I think that's kind of one of your geniuses. There's some things I could do better, but I like people and I know how to hire great people and inspire them to get my vision and get them excited and say, here's what I want to do. Here's how much I can pay you, or here's how much we can work together. And then build stuff. And then part of the relationship of making the quote unquote exit, I don't like that word per se, but making the exit, same relationships. Just calling friends, buddies. Hey, listen, I built this or that. It's making this much, traffic, whatever. Somebody interested? And some dude calls you or links in you and says, Ramon, I hear you got this cool asset. Could we buy it? Let's go. So accessibility. That is it. Yes.
How would you define the term success? I mean, this show is the root of all success. So what does Ramon Ray, how does he define that term?
Sure. For Ramon Ray, success means for me Am I having fun doing what I love? And in this season, no joke, is my wife happy? And God as well. But for the sake of this conversation, is my wife happy? And I'm not joking it because she's a big part of my life and her happiness. But am I happy doing what I love? And is my wife happy? And God, if they're all four of those align, whew, I'm off to the races.
Well, so with that as a definition, would you consider yourself a successful person?
Absolutely. Yes.
I love that. I love that. Well, you and I have something in common. One of my personal life vision is to be known as a man who lived a life that made Jesus and my wife happy. Like if I could do that, I feel like I've accomplished a lot in life, you know? So you and I are the same there. That's good. That's really good.
I love that. I love that.
So what's next for Ramon Ray? What's the next big project you work on? BWC is new for you and it's growing and it's doing great. But is there something on the horizon that you can tease us with that's coming down the pipe?
Probably two things. Celebrity CEO, that's kind of minor and easy. It's not a stretch. It will happen. It's growing. That's, we're helping people with their personal brand. So I'll throw that out there, celebrity CEO. But I think the next thing for me are two things that are related, Jason. It's probably a big, big event. I've done it already for a few years. That was one of the companies I sold, bringing together a few hundred people. But I think I have within me, Jason, to do one more series of events, whether it's a tour in New York with 500, for me, that's big, to 1,000 people, and one or two big name speakers. So that's probably next. And then last, I'll end, Jason, I love a broader show. I have a show I do at Black Enterprise called The Rundown with Ramon. It's growing, but whether it's, OTT doesn't have to be on NBC or something, but a show. I just love to impact millions of people a day on some live show. I'm ready for it.
I think if anybody can pull it off, you got the personality to pull it off, man. I think you could do it. I admire what you've accomplished, I think, through accessibility and positivity. That's kind of the two words I think I could define Ramon Ray's: accessibility and positivity. You exemplify both of those words, and if more entrepreneurs took that to heart, they would be much more successful. And if you ever do those big events, just remember your boy JD here. I would love to get up there on stage and
there
rock out with you.
JD is there.
Well, I want to tell everybody how to get in touch with you. So go to bwcdaily.com if you want to join that. We already talked about the Clubhouse stuff, so make sure you go join Breakfast with Champions on Clubhouse. You can also check out Zone of Genius, which helps small business owners live life fulfilled. We talked a little bit about that. If you want to just see about Ramon, you go to ramonray.com. And he's also on Instagram. So this is where I kind of originally, I think I found you, was Ramon Ray Smart Hustle. Ramon Ray Smart Hustle on Instagram. He's on Twitter at Ramon Ray. And then he is on LinkedIn at Ramon Ray Small Biz, B-I-Z. So go replay this, hit the 15-second rewind button, play that back, go look this dude up, connect with him on all those platforms. Ramon, I want to give you the last word today. What would you like to give as a piece of advice or word of encouragement to the audience today?
Yeah, thank you, Jason. My advice, encouragement is life will be difficult. You will fail. I promise you that you will fail, depending on the season, especially those of you who are a little more junior in your journey. You will fail, but keep going. Just keep at it, especially if you've had some success and you see some light. Don't stop. Don't stop. Keep going. Resist the naysayers. Push them out the way and find your tribe who can encourage you, not kiss your butt, but encourage you to move forward. So you will fail, but keep going. You're going to succeed.
Great advice from one of the most positive and affirming and accessible guys that you're going to meet. Thank you for being a guest today on The Root of All Success. I wish you continued success, and we need to keep in touch and keep doing some work together. But thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Jason Duncan.
Well, there you have it, another very successful entrepreneur about his journey to success. This was a very encouraging conversation today. This is my first recording of the day. I've got another one after this, but I'm telling you, he set me up for such a phenomenal day. Ramon Ray is accessible. Ramon Ray is positive. Ramon Ray is a guy you need to know. So please go make sure you follow him. Right there at the end of the show, I gave you all of the information about how to follow him. Hit the back button if you want to go back and listen to it again, but make sure you're following him. I do have a special announcement because today, the day that I'm recording this, is 2 days before my official release date of my book, Exit Without Exiting. So over the next several weeks, over the next several episodes, you're going to hear me promoting the book here at the end of the show, maybe at the beginning of the show. And so you'll forgive me, but this is a big deal for me. My book, Exit Without Exiting, How to Exit Your Business Without Selling It and Begin Living the Exit Lifestyle Sooner Than You Thought Possible, is now on Amazon. You can go to therealjasonduncan.com/book. That's therealjasonduncan.com/book. And you can read all about it. There's a video in there about why I wrote it, who it's for, and what transformation will occur after you read the book. And then there's a link to get your copy on Amazon. The price is going to be about $15.99, I think, is the settled price. The launch price was like $10. So you probably missed it by the time this comes out, but go check it out. therealjasonduncan.com/book. Make sure you tune in again next time when I talk with yet another very successful entrepreneur about his or her journey to success. Until then, I am the real Jason Duncan, and Jesus is King.
Thank you for listening to another edition of The Root of All Success with the real Jason Duncan. If you've enjoyed this week's episode, visit therootofallsuccess.com to access the show notes and other helpful resources. Follow Jason on social media at The Real Jason Duncan. Are you an entrepreneur who feels trapped in the weeds of daily operations, not experiencing the freedom you thought you'd have as a business owner? Want to know the way out? Take Jason's free exit readiness assessment to see how close you are to getting ready to experience true freedom and success as an entrepreneur. Go to amireadytoexit.com today. That's amireadytoexit.com. See you again next time here on The Root of All Success.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.